Always cracking, bro.
What's going on, Brown? We just saying we have to turn off the music before we get done by some copyright infringement law or some rubbish.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to start the podcast and we had like Eye of the Tiger playing in the background. Like, no, you better not do that.
That's it. That's it. The Evolve, Achieve, Thrive playlist coming at you.
Yeah, exactly. Part and parcel of the playlist is
I like it.
some good shit in there. We've got some stuff in there from previous guests as well, which reminds me, I knew I'd forget. I forgot to ask David in our last episode, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what track should go on the Evolve Achieve Thrive playlist.
He'll
I'm gonna
have
have to
some good
message him.
ones. He'll
Yeah,
have
yeah,
some good ones. I say some good ones. I bet he has some funky because he was talking about his piano, not piano,
yeah,
his guitar
killer.
stuff, right? So I'm
Yeah,
sure he has some off the wall things that'll probably go over our heads, but to him it'll be like this is musical genius.
yeah, yeah,
I could
exactly.
see
Yeah,
him
because
saying that.
yeah, like Emily suggested a couple of tracks as well. I'm like, I don't usually listen to this stuff, but like I'm pretty
Mm.
eclectic. So when I listened to it, I was like, yeah, fine. Yeah, I whacked it in the playlist and I just went for a run with that music as well. I was like, this is
I
good.
like it. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
You can jump on it. Like, do this for me.
Hmm.
Explain eclectic. I've never understood the definition of that word.
Oh, it's just varied taste, basically. So
Okay,
it means like
okay,
I can like heavy metal and I can like Michael Jackson. You know,
okay.
is
I like
you
it.
just have a range of flavors, range of tastes.
Right, right. So I'm gonna jack
Yeah,
the conversation for a second. I'm gonna run in because
yeah.
you give me the perfect setup with
Hmm.
my name this week. So my name is
Yes.
Multidimensional Brown, which I definitely didn't type. I just used like the predictive thing. It's just like
Yeah.
multi D. Oh yeah, multidimensional. Thank you very much.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's
thank God I didn't have to think about spelling that.
yeah, exactly. That's the
Yeah.
dimension of me that isn't comfortable with spelling, but we
Yeah.
have we have ones that just jump on this. Yeah, give me the quick handout with the spell. I'll take that. But
Yeah, man.
so to branch off what you said about eclectic, um, it's the thought of why I wanted to talk about this today has come through
Mm.
many clients this week talking about like just how life is kind of going for them. And I had a really nice chat with Amy this week about how perspective is shifting and she's being seen by other people and being like, are you the same person? Like, are you genuinely the same
Wow.
person? I don't really believe that you are. Like, and then she'll say herself that on the scale she's dropped down, but
Hmm.
she's been fairly um uniform for a while. She hasn't actually dropped past, I think it's 102, but for a few months now, right? And there's various reasons why that could be, but her actual body shape, her measurements, her clothes fitting, the way she looks in the mirror, the her outlook on life, her self reflection, her awareness around herself, everything is going a different way. You know what I mean? So like kind of
Nice.
and then that's one example of Amy where she's just smashing it. Like people are coming forward to just be like, I want to tell you like that you've done so well, and that
Nice.
I'm super proud of you and everything else, which is so nice, right? Like you said
Mm.
it just now. That's special. At the same time, I've had other clients come to me this week where life is so busy that they aren't able to kind of collect themselves in the moment.
Mm.
And
Mm.
the way I see it is that that's almost like your butter being spread across too big a piece of toast, right? You don't really know kind of where your ends are. You're just kind of all over, right? You can't
Spread
really
too thin.
bring it. Yeah, there you go. Spread too thin. And in that spread too thin, think about like we've got this body that we have to keep aware of. We do it in the health and fitness realm. We look at our sleep and our digestion and our training and all these things. If our awareness is spread across your aunties, uncles, sisters, brothers, boy, and your work and
Yeah.
your this and that, whatever, chances of you being able to collect yourself for a workout and actually orientate, okay, I've got to keep my core engaged and I've got to slowly go down here, it's much less. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it just got me thinking about how we as beings we exist on very many different levels. You know, I mean, we are
Mm.
like Sam is a mum. Sam is a mum. Sam is a worker at Royal Mail. She's now like a fitness kind of. I don't want to say like she's basically an influencer, right? She's an influencer for
Yeah.
people that will
Yeah.
look at her and be like, oh, okay, what did you do, Sam? Can you help me out? That's another
Yep.
status on which she's now existing. So the thought for the name for me was having awareness of all these different things and then being able to just juggle them, spin those plates is important. Why? Because the different ones give you different things. And I can go to the gym, and my version of this story this week is that I've been in the gym, and Nick Daniel, who writes my program, has got me doing doubles. And doubles is basically 2 reps, right? 2 reps. And for anyone who doesn't know, this is like a Poliquin thing where the lower the reps go, the higher the intensity goes. So a 1 rep max is more intense than a 10 rep max. And when I say intense, it means that it's more neurologically fatiguing. You've got to really get yourself up to hold a big weight and do the thing just once, because it's like a big event. Think of like hammering a nail 100 times versus just whacking it once. Like that one whack is going to be a much harder blow than the 100 beforehand, right? So what's happened to me this week is I've had to do this higher intensity kind of workout, which is taken from the other dimensions in which I exist and made me focus more of my awareness into one path and one being. And if I think about, like TJ talks about, like pro evolution, like Pez, and you have to
Yeah.
make your football player, and like you can kind of share the attributes across this like diamond, right? Like defense and whatever.
Yeah.
Like mine right now is like this, like this big old kind of like thing up here that's pulling all of my attention one way, and it's actually
Yeah.
shrinking down the other things. And for me to be effective across other areas of my life, I need to arrange that in a way that I can still do what I'm doing here, but not have it affect the other things too much, or have awareness around the fact that if I'm going to do this, it's going to take away from other things. But for a short period of time, I need to overreach in one direction. And this, I'm so happy in the fact that now I have the awareness that that's a thing. That's actually a construct. Like my life is organized in this way. Whereas in the past, I look at the fact that I would have done this in the past and not had any awareness as to why I'm grouchy, because I've not slept very well, because I'm doing doubles in the gym and that's wiping me out. Or I would have got up in the morning and been like, oh, why my body hurting so much? Like, oh, maybe you need to increase your calories a little bit. Maybe you need to go toward more like a more neurological sustaining food source, like increase your fats a little bit. These little instances that require a different input because of the different dimensions in which you run around in your life, I feel like that level of awareness is so much fun now, because you just generally you have control of your life, right? You have this, oh shit, I've been here before, but now I'll be able to plug in new levels of understanding around all of this. So yeah, that I wanted to just touch on that this week and give my examples of that. Maybe open it up to you as well and be like, what do you think to that? Do you where do you sit? Where does your kind of awareness arrive at with that?
That's cool, man. I think yeah, we're always spinning a lot of different plates, and I think yeah, when you get spread too thin, that's always an issue. So for me, one of the important things always to do is go back to prioritizing the things you value the most. So anytime you do find yourself on that Pez scale where everything's bunching up and you got that one thing off shooting, it's like, okay, cool, that's not sustainable for very long. So how do you be conscious of that and then make sure that everything else comes back in alignment and then it all spreads out a little bit more and you've got your attributes working in all these different directions a bit more evenly. And for me, I think it always comes back to thinking about what you need to do and what you need to execute on most often, and prioritize that again, and then just make sure that you're not getting spread too thin. Is one of the first things that came to my mind thinking about that kind of thing.
For sure, man, for sure. And it's that's definitely like I'd say this week I was almost not worried about course correcting as much as I was enjoying the the fact that life was now showing me something different. Whereas in the past I'd kind of absent-mindedly wandered through this same path and just kind of been like, oh, head down, kind of like I'm going through it, like yeah, it's cool. But now I'm just like, oh shit, this is all here. Like I can see why I'm tired. I can see why, because I've given so much more to this, and a roundabout way. I'm basically getting a, you know how you talk about this all the time, like come out of your life and look down at it from a bird's eye perspective. That's how I felt this week, and because of
Yeah,
the
nice.
examples being brought to me by my clients and people close to me, I can almost look at it and be like, oh, okay, this is almost, if we look at it like this, everyone's states of being can be analyzed at a much more succinct level, so we can actually understand what's going on and why we're actually in these positions, and then from there act accordingly. Like I had to tell Sam this week, Sam, go and have a takeaway. Like get some food in you that because she came into the gym being like, I'm working so much and my days are really, really long, and I come home and I have to sort family out and I have to do those things, and then I can get up in the morning and go straight back to work again. I was like, okay, cool. And she was like, I'm just not hungry. I have no time to eat. I don't want to eat. I've turned that part of my brain off. And she's a mum. She's like a dedicated mum, right? So those mums have this ability to work off of the entire week with about 300
Yeah.
calories. It's like, yeah, great. Get me
Yeah,
to like, that ain't going
exactly.
to happen for us, right? We're going to get
Put
to 3
everyone
p.m.
else
and be like,
first, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's such a cool thing. But at the end of the day, it will come back to bite you. And I think that kind of playing that card too much too often almost told me that, okay, we need to get you in your relationship with food, kind of just have some alone time with it. And the way that I could think to do that was either cook for yourself something that you really want to have, or just go out and get something like that you know will, you look forward to it arriving. You'll have that kind of awareness around, okay, I'm about to have a fun meal here, and I'm going to sit down and kind of just the occasion around it. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
going to just reacquaint with this food thing, which has been, we've kind of been a bit separate this week. So let's kind of get it, and whatever it is. She had some Chinese. No bother, no bother. Like
Yeah.
literally, those calories of your lifetime ain't gonna mean a thing. But
Yeah.
for it to recenter you here and now, that's the important thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that yeah, just the awareness to be able to prescribe something um, with that intent in mind. That's the fun thing. You know, I'm kind of trying to prescript that, but
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's just an interesting way of looking at stuff that is I think it's very valuable to have that experience now, to then be like, oh, okay, well, what else can I go and be aware of and move forward with? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. That's it, man. That's yeah. I think that's a really valuable thing because it reminded me of a situation with a client as well, where it was just you know putting on a couple of pounds instead of losing a couple of pounds,
Mm,
and
mm,
and I was like, okay, let's talk about what contributed to that, and then we talked about it. I was like, all right, good, and the response I got was, what do you mean good? Like,
mm,
how can you say it's good when I'm trying to lose weight? I'm like, look, everything's a learning curve, right? So you know what's contributed to this, and you know how to deal with that now. You know how to deal with it better. So it's just that that Thomas Beckett line is like try, fail, no matter, try again, fail better. You know, is that's what you want to. That's what you want to do. That's what you're striving towards because you're not going to get it perfect. And if
yeah.
you're going to if you're going to be in that situation where you could beat yourself up about it, but actually, what have you learned from it? And
Mm,
there's something that you've learned is like you bring your awareness to it, you learn something from it, and then you can go and apply that another time. So maybe Sam will be like, "Oh, I'm in that phase again where I've just decided to stop eating subconsciously, but now because she's actually aware of the whole situation, is like, oh no, I need to make sure I'm going to eat something.
yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
I don't want to put myself into that starvation mode by doing this for like a week or something." And then same with the other client, with my client is like, okay, you feel like you put on a couple of pounds, you feel bad about it. Let's see how it happened. How did it happen? It happened, we can directly relate it to probably these several factors. Cool. All right. Now that you know that, that doesn't have to happen again. Or if it does happen, you know why it happened. So there's the benefit there is twofold. It's like if it does happen, you don't have to be so upset about it, and because you know what led to it and you know how you need to course correct, and because it happened, you know how to not let that happen again as well. So in either scenario, to me, I don't feel like you have to be upset about it. And so again, you're able to bring yourself back into you've put yourself in an extreme scenario, learn from it, and now you pull yourself back into a more balanced scenario
Mm-hmm.
because you know what it's like to branch out that far and it's like, okay, this is what's happening. Okay, this has served me well, and now I'm gonna bring it back to center a bit.
Yeah, man. I really like that. I really like that. You made me think about like exercise in the way that we. There's a few things actually I wanted to touch on there. The first thing is gone away from me, but I'll stay with this for now. It was that, say we have an exercise progression and we're going to make something intentionally harder to bring your awareness to it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
To how you have to move, to how you have to organize yourself. And what that's going to do, it's going to level up our awareness. And it's the same thing here. Like you've maybe not intentionally made things harder, but through intentionally doing other things, you've made other things fall off a little bit, and therefore to rebalance that, we have to be made aware of those things, and then they come out in the washes like our mistakes. And it's almost like you can
Yeah.
frame it as a mistake, and like you said, beat yourself up about it. Like your client was like, "How do you mean good?" But you can almost frame it as like, "Oh, this is just the universe's way, or my body's way of bringing my awareness to something by saying, okay, now do you realize the deficit it's created here? Oh yeah, cool. Now we know this, and
That's it.
that's so valuable. You know, what I mean, that's why like the line you said, like fail again, and fail better. That's everything. You know, what I mean, because really, us like having the thought that we are we should be the finished article is never going to
Yeah.
happen. Like there isn't like who
Never.
decides that, who's the arbiter of perfect? Like doesn't exist. But you can just slowly start moving forward toward a better version of what you were, right? That's
Yeah.
really it.
Exactly, man. Yeah. The older I get, the more I realize like it's like an asymptotic effect. Is like you're gonna keep rising to your potential, but you're never gonna quite get it. Is like, hang on, wait,
Mm,
here's if anybody watching on YouTube is like, here's that potential, and you get there, and you're just gonna keep curving and going
yeah.
along it. You're never gonna quite get it, but that's part of the journey, right? It's part of it because the world is so freaking big. Your reality, actual objective reality, is insanely rich compared to our perspective. So when we do push ourselves to that potential, a new part of reality opens up to us, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe if I'll explore that a little bit more. Just in the same way where you're on a training program, and your ceiling as a newbie is, I'm going to put a random number, is a 50 kilo 10 rep max squat, right?
Mm,
But the further down that journey you go, the stronger you become, the more the fitter you become, more conditioned you get. That's going to become a 70 kilo 10 rep max. So you can do 70 kilos for 10 reps, and you're going to keep going. You're going to keep going. You're going to keep progressing, but the progression will get smaller and smaller, and then you're going to get to a point where to make a 1% gain takes like 90% of the effort,
mm,
but that's the beauty of it, because you're always seeing. To me, I feel like it's a beautiful thing because you're always seeing something new. You're always uh, a, a, you're seeing something new, but you're always like challenged in a slightly different way, and that's quite nice because at the end of the day, we talked about a couple episodes back about neuroplasticity, and one of the things that is a prerequisite for you to have good brain health is to experience novelty. So the more you go down the track that you go down to try and exploit your potential, you have more novelty that comes up with that as you go along, and yeah, that's one of the best things you can do for yourself, to have not just longevity but quality of life as well. So I think it's necessary to fail again, fail better.
100%, man. 100%. That's. I love the analogy you gave there with the weight, because that's exactly. So if I explain the the progressions in my training program recently, right? Just to give people an insight. So it starts off with core training across. I'm training a Copenhagen plank, right? So now we know a Copenhagen plank. It's like a side plank, but you're using your top leg and you're trying to feel your adductors, right? And this is not part of the story, but it's just giving context. you're basically trying to make your core stronger, right? So now you in this like imagine there's a string going from the side of your ribs all the way down to the inside of your knee. Now that line is now kind of going to hold you more secure. Cool, great job. Next, we're going to go to a bear crawl, and we have this line that kind of goes around the body, and that line's kind of a bit loose, and then you're going to pull that thing tight, and it's like a zip tie that kind of has that the teeth are kind of biting a bit more firm. Okay, cool, right. And with that, now we're going to go and do a squat. I was like, okay, cool. Now, so because we've done the pre-work, I can now come over here and do this thing better. You know what I mean? And that is if I don't do the pre-work and I don't kind of go through that there, for me to come over here and expect this to just magic itself into existence ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So the link I'm trying to make here is that you were talking about how it's it's your awareness around the starting point with your weight was a certain amount of awareness, and it equaled this number, like say 10 reps at 50 kilos, whatever it was. But now you had to go away and you had to look at all the different components that make up that 10 reps and 50 kilos and improve a little bit of this one, improve a little bit of that one, and then come back to the bar and be like, okay, well, I can do more than 10 reps, 50 kilos now. And it's that like novel adaptation that you're talking about that we have to expose constantly to then like what's the word, to slowly scale this up over here so we can trade it for something bigger over here. You know what I mean? Like Shallow says, like you're working to generate currency that you can then go and trade for higher order levels of skill. And at a certain point, you don't need to do a different skill. You just need to keep progressing the weight over time and over time and over time. And that's so much fun to face that. And this is why, like me doing a 6 rep front squat over like what would be about 7-8 weeks ago now, and then putting it down to a 4 rep and then putting it down to a 2 rep is like, okay, well, you did the work at 6, but now expose yourself and actually fail at 4, and then you generate a bit more and you can use a bit more load, and you're not necessarily failing, but you're seeing where your failure points are. But now go to 2 reps with it and take the intensity even higher. And now the plan is to go back to 6 or back to 8 and be like, okay, well, use this newfound level of awareness that you had with a higher weight and a higher intensity to go and do that thing even better. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing of getting closer to that failure point, like really close to it, not to a point where you actually you test the system and it falls apart and you injure yourself. No, but to a place where it's right on the edge and you're feeling like there's not much in the tank now. Like this could go. Great, go there, bring it back down again, and now go and apply that awareness down chain, make it a little bit less intense, and slowly start kind of filtering what you had to do at the highest level into other things, and watch those rise as well. And then eventually it will kind of cascade back to when you go back to the highest level, you'll have done more of it. You'll have done more of this high intensity work across other areas of your training or other areas of your life. So when you peak again, it's going to be a higher peak to what you did last time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's so much fun. So
Yeah.
so so much fun to go there and be like, oh shit, I can't do it. Cool, I can't do it. I have to go figure this out.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
everything. That's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend this week about hard work, and genuinely, it's exciting, isn't it? Like that's the
Yeah.
mindset that you've got to get to. I said to a client this like 2 days ago. I said to Amy actually about how there'll be times when you unrack a weight and you're there trying to get tight and trying to get tight and trying to kind of gather your awareness for the exercise. But then you just have like what happened to me sometimes is I'll just laugh at it. I'll just not laugh at it from a
Yeah.
from perspective of I'm finding it funny. No, but like it's excitement that's coming out of me in that moment. Like I'm there where I have to test like all that I've got has to be expressed right now in this way, and if I make it,
Yeah.
I'll make it. If I don't, I don't. Cool, but I'm just enjoying the process.
Yeah.
That's the fun bit.
That's nice, man. I like that. Hard work is exciting, and I think this is an interesting subject for the sheer fact that I feel like in the kind of comfort that we have in the civilization that we live in, I think what people in general are actually craving without really knowing it is doing hard work. So actually looking for a challenge, because that's where fulfillment comes. Is there is no fulfillment without challenge. I don't see it anywhere. Because I can say that as being somebody, I've talked about openly, like, just having a fixed mindset growing up and just kind of being afraid of being challenged and being like, I'm supposed to be smart. So if, if somebody comes along and shows me something I don't know, then that puts me in a really
Mm.
defensive mode, and is like,
Yeah.
I've worked and I'm still working on that. And it's been years to always continuously adopt that growth mindset. And I can say it is like, if I was, whenever I was always looking for things to be easy, I just wasn't as like happy. I just wasn't as fulfilled. I wasn't feeling like I was doing anything meaningful. But every time I moved myself towards or leaned into working hard, I found that so much more rewarding. And every time I do that, it just feels good. Like, I finish the day and I'm like, I've had a fucking good day because I've worked
Mm.
towards something. And and this will actually tie in with my name as well, with procrastinating around, because what so again, me just kind of reevaluating my values and going like, okay, biggest things that are important to me are like physical health, learning, and me working on my business, because my business is a an extension of me. It's like I put myself into my business, and it is me. And so if I do well on that front, it's me doing well. If I'm doing well, then I want my business to be doing well. It's that bi-directional relationship. And but doing the business stuff actually comes harder for me. And it's this really weird thing. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but I feel like, for me personally, I've seen it as well, but it's something that's becoming a little bit more obvious. But I feel like there'll be certain things that we're quite happy to say, I don't know, and I'm willing to learn. And but for some reason, business for me was always that thing. It was like, I should know how to do business, but
Mm.
but it's actually a skill that you acquire. You can't just be good at it.
Yep.
And so I've never actually felt comfortable saying, yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my business.
Mm.
It's a really strange one. And I feel like there's I've seen it in other places as well, but me especially, I've been like, I just don't know how to. I don't to say that I don't know how to do business has always felt like a really weird thing.
Mm.
And so I'm addressing that now, and I'm like, I'm kind of I'm okay with it. I'm embracing that. It's like, I don't know, so it's something I'm going to work towards understanding more of and do better in. Um, and it could be for a myriad of reasons, but because it's something that comes less naturally to me, um, I've I've procrastinated on that front this week, because I've decided, like, okay, we're coming into 2021. What are the things that I need to do to make sure that I have not just a good year, but I set myself up for life as well. I started to
Mm.
set myself up for life. And I've been lucky enough where my clients have always trusted me with referrals, but I've never really generated cold leads. So that's a step for me that I want to take. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? How do I do that best? So I need to start looking into that. I want to. I'm looking. Again, I'm reevaluating what my business is and who it's for, and coming up with my principles, my business core values, um, and the kind of people that I work with and deal with, and like really articulating that so I understand my market as deeply as I possibly can, and then go and take that information and be like, okay, well, this is the kind of person who I need to target, and these are the kind of people who I know I can help, and I'm certain I can help if I bring them into my program. And but I've procrastinated on it because it's just something that's harder for me to do. So I get to a certain point in the day, it's usually late afternoon, and I'm like, I haven't done my business stuff yet. I've done other
Mm.
things, but I haven't done my business stuff. And I get this agitation that's building up inside me. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, man, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you doing this work? You know you need to do this work. And then what I really want to do is get to about 7 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening, and just start chilling out and just winding down, read a little bit, go to bed, do the next day. But instead, what I've been doing is starting to work at about 6 to 6:30 or something, and then doing
Mm.
that for a few hours till about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I've just been pissed off in my head. I'm like, why? Your evening's supposed to be a bit more wind down time. Like now, instead, you're dedicating this time to do this because you didn't do it earlier in the day. And then it happened Tuesday, and then it happened Wednesday, and then it happened yesterday. But yesterday was the day where I just hit me because it's a pattern now. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, be fine with it. Be okay with it. Because there's one thing procrastinating, feeling that agitation to do the work, and then not doing the work. But I'm procrastinating, I'm feeling the agitation to do the work, and I am doing the work. That
Mm.
is better than not doing it at all,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So, and I'm like, just be with it, just live with it, and be okay with that, and use that. And you're doing right now, you're feeling like you're hitting a bit of a flow state between 6:30 and 9:30 in the evening. Fine, just run with it. Eventually, the more of a habit you build of actually doing this work for your business on a day to day basis, you're going to start to bring that forward. It will
Mm.
start to become a little bit more natural to work at an earlier part of the day and feel more productive and then recover your evenings like that. So don't worry about it. Just embrace it, take it. Don't resist it. Don't get that agitation. Just be like, all right, well, this is what I'm doing right now, and then eventually it will probably get better. And so that's where procrastinating Brown came from. And actually, the point here that I'm making is like I'm using that procrastination in my favor. You know,
Mm.
because usually we look at procrastination being like, fuck, this is an awful thing. This is a bad thing. I shouldn't be wasting my time. Why am I wasting my time? Why am I wasting my time? And I've realized why I'm wasting my time because in this sense because I'm just not as comfortable dealing with in business stuff, and I feel like a child relative to how I am in fitness and health and stuff, where I'm always learning about that thing. I'm always putting myself into it because I've just built up a habit of doing that, as well as it being my curiosity.
Mm.
Now, the business side of things, to take it to the next level, is a new curiosity and is something that I'm new at. So I have to build up the habit and build up the routine to really focus on it properly. And so instead of looking at procrastination being like, this is bad, literally yesterday I flipped it and I was like, what's good about this? It's like, well, I'm still doing
Mm.
the work. Yeah, I am still doing something about it. And that made me feel a lot better about the whole thing. So there's basically, you can always use something which is a perceived negative as a positive to help keep driving you forward. And remember, like if in my scenario, if something is new to you and you feel kind of lost with it, you're not entirely sure what you're doing with it, and you're just agitated by the whole thing, it's like, it doesn't matter, because over time, the more you practice it, it's going to get better over time. And one of the things that you need to get better at something, we've talked about it before, is some strain and some confusion. You need to feel a little bit of agitation to actually get better at stuff.
I like it, man. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just shifting the perspective is so important, man. That's yeah, because you just kind of unload yourself, hey. It's all this kind of built up kind of
That's it.
discomfort around kind of just getting the thing done. But this is all part
Yeah,
of the process, because
exactly.
if you basically the thing that you needed to get done was realize that it's cool, like I'm doing the work. And the fact that you actually have a higher expectation of yourself is a good thing, and that's what's
Yeah.
causing the anxiety in the first place. So it's almost like life's trying to make you learn that lesson as opposed to just getting it done. Because in getting it done, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have learned this lesson. Say you just sat down and you were just the business supremo. It's like cool, yeah, you would have got the business thing done, but you wouldn't have had to face this thing in yourself, which would just come out in the wash somewhere else in your life. And that I think that's really really interesting. It's such a
Yeah.
there's so many ways you can go off with this in terms of like
Yeah.
how I don't know the universe or like life this like random thing that teaches you these things along the way without our awareness, kind of like I believe in God or whatever, like that is that you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that something up there trying to like, oh, this person, like this, for them to move forward and access more of themselves, they're always in training, but not the training you think you're in. Like
Yeah.
I need to go and lift 140 kilos today. Cool. Yeah. What's that going to get you really? Bit more muscle on your butt, bit more gains in your quads. But it's the
Yeah.
facing of the fear. It's the facing of the intensity. It's the believe in yourself. Those are all the other dimensions in which you have to exist, and other things in which
Yeah.
you have to kind of scale yourself, and just like you said, labeling it as this is bad, I'm in a bad
Mm.
place,
Yeah.
is not helpful, is it?
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's two things that came to mind there. One of them was a quote that I saw this week, and I don't know who it was by, but it was, the outcome you get from achieving your goal is nowhere near as important as the person you become by achieving
Yeah.
your goal.
Yeah.
And
It's the
and
journey, not the destination, bro. That's it,
yeah,
right? It's the
it's
journey. It's always
always
the journey.
it's always yeah,
Yeah.
because like you arrive at that one destination is like you can stay there, but you don't stay there by just stopping moving forward. Actually, you stay there by continuing doing the thing that got you there in the first place. And and then the other thing is every time you want to level up,
Yeah.
you're gonna be faced with something about yourself which you might not have seen before,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have to deal with it. So in this instance, it's like, okay, I'm dealing with a couple of things here. You know, what are they? And it's like, why? Like, procrastination is a good sign that basically you've got resistance to something. So it's like, what's the resistance? What is that about? So if I sit and think about it, it's like, oh right, okay. Try and feel it as well. It's not just thinking about it, because you can always be in your head about something, but when you actually get out of your head a little bit and you just experience what's happening in your body with the whole thing, you're like, oh right, this is what's going on, and this is what it's teaching me about myself. And if I didn't decide that I want to level up on this front, then I'm not going to learn that, and I will have this block on me which can affect other things in my
Mm.
life. So instead, what I've done is I've realized that, and I'm trying to work through that. And by making the habit to work through that, it will not be something that limits me anymore, and I'll be able to excel in this field, which I can also take to other things as well. It's
True that,
like
man.
and like and yeah, the confidence that you get from doing something like that is the confidence you get from facing a part of yourself that you don't necessarily like, or and 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 being like, yeah, I did that. I went there, and it's like, okay, well, nothing else is as scary or impossible to go there with, because I faced myself. It's the
Mm.
biggest challenge I could have is getting to grips with my being and the parts of myself that I don't like, and just accepting that, and then moving forward from there. And then yeah, everything else essentially starts to accelerate from there as well.
Too right,
That's
man.
what it
Too
feels
right.
like.
100%. 100%. Yeah. It's like that back to that like journey and destination thing. It's like
Mm.
if you sat and watched a movie, and the opening scene was like setting the stage of a hero kind of in down in the dumps, and not really kind of getting where he wants out of life, and then the next scene was he has the girl and he runs off into the sunset. You're like, hey, what? So like, where's the journey? Like, I want to see this guy fail and then rise, and then see the montage of training and see him slamming some egg whites. Like, this is all part of it. You know what I mean? Like that stuff, like when the shit that you don't want to do,
Yeah.
ultimately is the stuff you stand on to be at the peak of the mountain. You know what I mean? Like that, you
Mm.
can't bring the mountain to you. You can't just skip to the end of the movie and be like, oh, well, I wonder what happens here. I used to do this when I was little. This is
Yeah.
such a stupid thing I used to do, right? But it's legit. I used to read. I used to open the book and be like, what happens at the end? Let me just open the back.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no context of nothing. Be like, oh, okay. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, that's just, it's the epitome of some dumb kid who doesn't actually know the way the world works. Like, see all these pages before the last one, mate. Yeah, you want to read those. Like, those,
Yeah.
that's literally where it's at. Like,
Yeah.
that's quite literally where it's at. Like, the thing you're looking for is here. Like, don't look at this
Oh
thing over there.
man.
That don't even exist.
Yeah.
That's something you've made up in your head or whatever. But at the same time, me saying that the ending doesn't exist, I almost want to like say that if you have a clear end, like not an end, but like a clear goal, you know that everything in the middle is just in in transit to that end. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
oh, I'm procrastinating today. Good. This is going to get me closer. I have to face this obstacle. It's like Hercules
Mm.
and the seven labors of whatever, right? I don't know, seven labors or just like the shit
Oh,
he has to
something
do
like that.
to earn
Yeah.
his keep of like his sanity and his family or whatever. you're there in that place where you have to deal with procrastination, because that's a
Mm.
part of you. That's a little gem you got to put into your crown for when you're the king of your own life, or when you actually own your shit. And
Mm.
that journey probably won't ever stop, because it shouldn't, because otherwise it's going to be a boring life. Like, you've well completed it.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
no, I don't want that. You want to be consistently like moving forward, but having the end goal of ownership of your life in whatever way that shapes up, but not being so tied to it that it deflates you that you aren't there right now.
Mm.
That's it, right? You've got to play them both off against each other and be like, okay, this is my ideal. Again, back to Jordan Peterson. I listened to one of his
Mm.
videos this week again, talking
Nice.
about this very thing, and he was talking about comparing yourself to other people, and how you can compare yourself to anybody who has, okay, right, this person's as tall as I am, they've been training for as long as me, they have as much free time as I do, and yada 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 yada. Okay, cool. But there's a point at which the similarities finish, and then
Mm.
our like even playing field starts to kind of divert a little bit. But the only person that you can't divert from is yourself. Like,
Mm.
you are you, and you versus you is the most fair thing ever, because the way
Yeah.
you were yesterday couldn't be bettered by you today. Like
Mm.
kill that guy. Like we talk about,
Yeah.
Ultron, like tearing out of his own
Yeah.
body when you learn something new. That's so legit. That's so legit. It's like, I wanna the version of me that did what I did on Wednesday this week in my workout needs to go, because
Mm.
today I get the chance to just show him where the door is. Like, and then that
Mm.
happens again to this version of myself next session. And
Mm.
something that I'll do with clients is like, or even do it myself first. So I've done a rep. It's like, cool. Now you get to do another one. It's like, great.
Yeah.
Now I get to smash the life out of that last rep I did, and then
Yeah.
smash the life out of the rep I'm about to do. It's like, this is
Yeah.
so much fun. Like, I'm just continually winning. Like, that's if you, like you said it earlier, when you're looking at something at like a singular level, like, oh, I'm just doing an exercise here, like, oh, it's going to take some time or whatever, it's a kind of laborious task. But if you look at it on that level, where there's so many more attachment points, like the multi-dimensional thing, I feel like
Mm.
it's there in all of it, but you just got to be aware enough to see where we're at, you know what I mean? And but then
Mm.
it's one of those things that you can practice that awareness, and then be like, oh shit, me sitting down in my car is a rep, me sitting on this
Mm.
bed right now is a rep. Like, all of it is in conscious control of my body toward an action. Just because I go to the gym to do a workout, that's not the only thing dictating how my life orientates my body. You know what I mean? I need to be able to understand that it's always on. The game's always on. You know what I mean? Whether you want to play or not,
Mm.
that's up to you. But the more you play, the more you're able to traverse this game and be like, oh shit, I'm more aware of the things now. Like, I'm better at playing
Yeah.
this game. I was
Mm.
pretty shitty at it for a long time, but now I can say, okay, well, if I put this here and think about that, then I'm happier. Oh, sweet. Let's
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what happens if I do more of this.
Mm. Yeah. And then there's, I mean, so a buddy of mine this week just had like a shit week at work, right? And and was just like, yeah, I'm done, just like
Mm,
done kind of thing. And I checked in the day after the that feeling of like, you know, everything is shit. I was like, you know, how's it going? And and one of the points, one of the things I tried to point out was, hey, look, man, look, you've had a rough time, you've had a shit time, but just remember that you're in control of that,
mm,
like how you respond to it. You have the tool. You are in control of that. You how you respond to that and how it feels. So everything was shit, and you feel like you're up to here with it all. Well, here's some tools. Like, you know, just do the things that floats your boat the most, whether it's going for a walk or a run in the park, whether it's doing a bit of meditation, whether it's doing some Wim Hof style breathing, or if it's doing some 5-10 slow breathing, um, anything that is going to help you get out of your head a little bit, and so that doesn't bother you as much, is going to help you, is going to help you move forward. So that's another way for you to learn, okay, this happened in this week, everything felt like it was dog shit, but hey, I have something I can access which is going to help me stop feeling like crap. And that tool is within me, so therefore I have actually control over how I feel about the scenario, and
Mm,
how and instead of it makes me feel that way, it's like, no, I make myself feel that way. It's
mm,
not having an effect on me the way that it could do. It's something that's in my environment which I make a note of and go, all right, that's triggered things in me, and what is that trigger? Okay, how can I control that? And it's tricky because just using that as a case study as well, because you're just in it, you're in that, you're in the fire, and you just can't see how you can put out that fire because it's just around you and you're in it the whole time. But there's just a moment. But if you're able to take a moment and just realize there is something that I can do about this, okay, this is how I'm going to approach it, then instead of every day compounding one after the other and making you feel worse and worse and worse, you can actually go, oh no, I've realized I've got control over this. I have realized I have access to tools which will help me bring myself back to center so that I don't feel as shit about everything. And it basically is as simple as that. It's just knowing what to do and knowing you have access to tools which can bring you back to a better place. And that again is another opportunity for you to level up. So then you have a shit week like that again, and actually it doesn't feel as shit because you're just in better control.
100%, man. 100%. I really like what you said there about tools that you have that bring you back to a better place. And it's funny because I was having a really similar conversation to about this with a client. I can't remember who I was having a conversation with. It might have been TJ, and it was about it was about no, it was actually a client. It was Kieran. Um, the versions
Yeah.
of yourself that do and don't serve you in specific scenarios. So there is, and this is just a different way of looking at what we've talked about already today, but not to say one is better or worse than the other, just again, another attachment point to see it from. That, okay, I have a version of me which is right for this conversation. It's kind of a version of me which is stopping and thinking. I'm not in my body at all. Like, I can't be in my body right now because I have to access this melon to kind of actually follow the thought process and
Yeah.
record information and write things down as we go along. But the version of me which is ready for a workout is never going to be the version of me that's ready for a sit down and have a conversation, because I'll be like, I'm ready to just tear the head off it right now. Like that's how it
That's
has to
it.
be. Otherwise, it's not going to get the job done. Whereas the version of me right now has to be calm, has to be void of everything south of my head. Right? Like this,
Yeah.
just leave me for a bit. Like we'll get
Yeah.
to you in a minute. Like you can just shut up for a while because it's not important for you right now. Like this for me to appease this part of me, I have to be able to segregate and plug and play and plug and play and be like, okay, you don't get attention right now, but the other part of me does. And that's the same for me going into a workout and saying that I need to access a different part of me. I love this book that I've got here. I don't know if you've heard of it. Recommended by Elliot Hulse, called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. We might have talked
No, I
about it
don't
before on
know.
the podcast. It's really
No.
cool. I'll go to lend you it sometimes. It's really fun. It's basically it's written from the author's perspective on the male psyche, and basically he's talking about how we've all got a version of a king, a version of a warrior, a version of a magician, and a version of a lover within us. And then there's a spectrum whether you can kind of be a too much of a submissive leader where everything kind of goes and the world turns into anarchy because you haven't controlled it, and then you can be on the other end of the stick where you're just a totalitarian dictator, and you can be a tyrannical kind of overlord over your kind of people and way, and how there is duality there that you've got to learn to kind of divide and find the balancing point of. But sometimes access either. And then obviously there's the other sections like the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover, and it's in understanding that we can actually, like I said, plug and play and choose the right thing from the vending machine and be like, okay, I need this right now. I don't need the other thing. I need this thing. I press the right button and the right thing falls out, hopefully. And it's the right thing to do in the moment because it's situational, right? Like our life is situational. I have to do this. I want to do this right now. So I must access this part of myself. And the way I can look at this is we've gotten better at doing this podcast, right? Like through not just doing it in the act of doing it, but also being aware of where we were before and being, oh well, that wasn't really serving too well. So can we analyze, and can we kind of like leave certain parts of our emotion? Like the first time we did this, I was so excited that I don't think I my heart rate would have been like 140 the entire time, right? And that's not normal. Like that's not serving us any well right now. Whereas now I feel like I can slow down, I can listen to you talk, I can make mental notes, make notes on the piece of paper, and not have to feel the urge to jump in. Oh, I've had a thought. Like, can we discuss this one? Like that's not the way this needs to happen. This is not how this moves forward. And it's the same thing with weight training. Like, so I remember the client I was talking to this about, it was almost like, when you go down into a rep, say you're doing a bench press and you're like lowering, and like throwing it off your chest, right? So like kind of doing, next one, like, please leave me, like don't kind of come closer, right? That's the, and he was doing it with an RDL, and like going into the deadlift and then just like snapping up out of it, like he kind of walking up out of bed and something installed him. It's like, in doing that, you've brought something in that you're missing the wood for the trees, because you're missing the contraction through your hips, you're missing the intention through the floor, you're missing the tension through your lats, and the picture you're painting for yourself is like, we don't need like morning gunshot Kieran, we need awareness and like put the work through the body and actually feel the component parts working, Kieran, right? And that may require you to have a word with yourself and be like, chill the fuck out, it's okay. Like that's the word I need to have with myself on episode 1. Like that's the awareness that we can kind of carry forward. And the fun part is that I have, like, we need people sometimes to bring our awareness to those things, and you did that for me this week. We had a chat about business, about work, and it properly just gave me a new perspective on things. Go back to it and this is great now. Thank you for that. Just helped your friend, you've helped me as well.
Amazing.
And we can then pass that on to the next person, and clients and whatnot. And that's why this is so much fun, right? We talk about our job all the time, but yeah, just thinking about it in that respect as well. Is this version of you required right now? Like, is it serving us? And can we plug into a different version of us and maybe see, okay, well, like you did with your procrastination, like there's a version of you which is like, I've got to get through this, I've got to get through this. But there's a version of you which is all like, oh, okay, well, I'm cool with this. Like, I'm actually level-headed. I'm level-headed Brown. And I can get through this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, surprising I haven't used level-headed Brown as a name yet, because that's like the name, that's the way everybody describes me. It's like you're like the most level-headed person I know.
But that's also hard as well, right? Because I bet from your perspective, just trying to theorize on this, if you're always level-headed, people expect that of you. So when you lose your shit, you're never allowed to lose your shit, right? Because the social construct you've built around yourself is that, I'm level-headed, Brown. Everything is easy and happy and low. But you're like, fuck no! I want to put your head through a wall, and I want to tell you to fuck off. Like this. Like, I can't be that guy right now. But that's why you do jiu-jitsu, so you can like let shit go and access that part of yourself. You know what I mean? You ain't got to be level-headed now. Like, take this dust, son. Tell me who's level-headed.
No, bro, every time I'm doing it, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. It's like, this is not me, man. This is not how I wanted things to be.
Focus on yourself.
Right, it's so funny, because my last jiu-jitsu instructor, like, on that note, there's a couple of stories, right? And it's true, there's the whole thing of, okay, I am level-headed, that is my default position, and like interestingly, is like I never felt like I actually owned that title in a way, because so like, what I mean is, like, my dad is super chill, right? But that's through life experience that he's super chill. So I don't know if it was like something in me is like, my dad's my hero, so I'm gonna try and do the same. But I didn't own being level-headed, right? So it was just like, that's it. Got to do the reps too. So I'm like, on the veneer is like, I'm like this. Underneath, I'm just like fucking going crazy and shit. So I'm like, I want to fucking lose my shit, but I can't, because I'm supposed to look like this.
I love that. I love that.
So then, but as I'm getting older, I'm actually owning the level-headedness a lot more as well, right? And And so yeah, so that's part, like that's one funny thing about it, and like still haven't completely owned it, but for sure is like it is that is a big part of me, and it's a big
Mm,
part of who I am. And so there's a couple of stories. Is when I was back at Virgin Active back in the day, like
mm.
one of the at least one of the cleaners was like proper God fearing older lady, had been one of the cleaners there for like 18 years at that time,
Wow.
right? Just putting the reps in, just super nice lady as well. And then one day she heard me swear when I was with my PT colleagues, and then she was like, like, Gurinder, did you just say these words? I was like, what? Fuck. She's like, and then like sighed like sighed again in total amazement, and she was like, I didn't know you swore. I was like, what do you mean I didn't know I didn't know I swear? It's like you're such a good boy, and I was like, oh. Oh, you think I'm like that? No, no,
Sorry to
no.
disappoint you.
Exactly. It's like no, that's it was hilarious. She just thought like completely had her bubble burst about her
Oh,
perception of me,
yeah,
and
yeah,
uh, and I just thought it was hilarious because of just I don't know, the persona was that I'm just this like squeaky clean dude, and it was
yeah.
like I said fuck once, and she was like, I can't believe it. That's it. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
I don't,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't even
yeah.
know who you are anymore. you know,
That's it. That's
like
so
that kind of thing.
interesting.
Yeah, it's proper funny, and for me, and like I was like, what? What's so confusing about this?
Yep,
And
yep.
then a few years back as well, when I used to train at my old jiu-jitsu gym. I haven't actually been a member of a club for like 2 years basically. It's
Mm,
actually literally 2 years. And then so prior to that, my instructor actually tried to get me angry. So
mm.
he was like, you're too nice on the mats. I was like, uh, I don't think you're saying that in a nice way, are you? It's like it's not supposed to be a good thing in this scenario. It's like, nah, you need to get worked up more. And he just started shoving me. He's like, get worked up. Just shoved me again. I just started cracking up. I was like, because I know what you're trying to do. That's the difference, right? It's like I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me worked up, but because I know what you're trying to do, it's actually not going to work. Right?
Mm.
So he was like, you just need to get fucking worked up, and you need to bring the animal out, right? And this is a big reason why I do jiu-jitsu as well, is to actually that controlled application of the aggressive side that I have, which I know is within me, but I've just been so, let's say, uncomfortable to express that for whatever reason ever since I was a kid. But it's my controlled way of trying to get that out, and
I love
uh,
this
and
story.
I, it's necessary, man. It's
Yep.
necessary. It's super necessary,
Yeah.
and because you got to be able to have that attachment. Sorry, attachment's the wrong word. You got to be able to have that awareness of every single part of yourself,
Yep.
and knowing that. So maybe growing up, I thought being aggressive was bad, so I tried to really keep it down.
Mm.
Um, I haven't pinpointed it. I don't know why it has been that way, but like I said, like one of the things is just seeing my dad, and like he's a cool dude, so okay, I'm gonna keep it cool. But there's definitely other stuff going on there, because that doesn't feel like the complete answer for me.
Mm.
But uh, but so for whatever reason, maybe I thought it was bad. It's just like at school, it's like if you hit someone, you're a bad kid. You shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. But realizing that actually it's not. There's only bad if it's an excess in any direction. You
Yeah.
can have too much of a good thing. You can have too much of a bad thing, and you have to be comfortable with the fact that you have the capacity to express all of the different kinds of emotions that exist under the sun. You have the capacity to express all the different kinds of like violence that exist as well. You can be super violent, you can be super chill. And it goes back to what you're saying about being able to access those different parts of you as well. So that's how like I kind of like tying this whole thing together as well. It's like it's
Mm-hmm.
my personal experience with that kind of stuff, and being so-called level-headed brown, but also there is another part of me is like that's what I'm known for, but there are other parts of me where it would feel strange for other people to see come out, but it shouldn't, because we all have that. We all have access to that in various ways. And so when you amalgamate all of that and put it into your being rather than trying to discard it and feeling like this is a part of me that I don't like and I want to
Mm.
get rid of that, that's just never going to work, because the more you try and do that, the bigger that actually becomes, because you're always aware that you're trying to fight against it. Whereas you
Mm.
bring it into yourself, you end up you end up being a more complete person. You end up being a more whole person. And one of the lines that I really like that Jordan Peterson said once was, "You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and you should learn how to control it." And I resonate with that hard because that's me, through the journey of practicing grappling and jiu-jitsu is I'm trying to be that monster and I'm trying to learn how to control it because when I have access to that part, I know that I feel like a better human being. I feel like a different human being. I feel like a more confident human being. I feel like I have less obstacles in my way just because I've been able to access that part of myself. And so you want to be able to have that access to different parts of yourself so that you can execute the task at hand, whether it's the
Yeah.
gym, whether it's a conversation, whether it's handling a loved one, whether it's making a good choice when you're out at a restaurant. There's different parts of you that exist, and putting it all together to be okay with all that is in my view super necessary. But I feel like I think there's just I think you see it. I think you see it around you as well when people try not to um, or rather when people try to like label a part of themselves as either good or bad, and
Mm.
that isn't helpful to anyone, I find.
Too right, man. So many interesting nuggets that you just kind of went through there,
Mm.
bro. And I
Yeah.
completely agree. I completely agree. It's I don't know where to jump on, but like where to go with that. But
Yeah. Just go the
it's
first place it
yes,
takes you.
the first place, man. Do you know what? I would listen to this back and be like, there's so many things. I was this thing, that thing, and the other thing, because it's
Yeah.
that we do every week, right? But
Yeah.
and I bet our listeners do as well. So you know what? You gotta come with your stories on. We're going for an hour now, on that kind of topic. Let's keep it simple. Topic and thought process. What do you think? Because I'm sure you've all got your own wild stories of
Yeah.
being level-headed brown, and it's just so interesting, man. It's so interesting to look at the human psyche and be like, why did it develop like this? Like,
Yeah.
what made him see that this was the way to be? And like the way you talk about seeing your dad, 100%, I can resonate with that because like
Mm.
me growing up, my dad's like 6'5" and just a door of a human, right? Like him coming to pick us up from primary school wearing this big green jacket that everyone would call him the Jolly Green Giant because he was nice and happy and kind of whatever. But
Yeah.
he would just fill the room whenever you'd stand there because he's like, "What's the fucking Christmas tree doing here? It's like February, like what the hell? Like this is this is me seeing that as a kid, being like,
Yeah.
oh okay, everyone has a word like that to say about my dad. Um, it's really interesting because it can almost construct the person like you did, like happened to you, to be a certain way. And that
Mm.
isn't what happens there is okay, this links kind of well.
Mm.
Um when the world kind of tells you how to be based on how they react to you,
Mm.
you can choose there and then. Like you chose to be like, sorry, cleaning lady, I'm not I'm not as squeaky clean as you thought I was. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean I'm a bad person. Definitely doesn't mean I'm a bad person, but it just means that I'm this is me. This is me. Like, and what you might perceive by me swearing isn't what I mean to emote, right? Just
Mm.
realize that it's not as deep to you as it is to me, right?
Mm.
And what I'm trying to get at there is the construct of level-headed brown had made you confined within those walls, right? Like you
Mm.
had to live your life, but no one can do that. Like at the end of the day, we can have the awareness around these things, but at certain times, like we said earlier, level-headed brown just don't get the job done. Like thankfully,
Yep.
he is there because I needed help this week and I needed to call on level-headed brown. He was there to help me, but
Mm.
like you said, your jiu-jitsu instructor said to you that level-headed brown just not going to cut it right now. Like
Yeah.
we need scary rage monster brown. Like bring that guy
Yeah.
because he needs to help out. And I really feel like this is that movie. Not not wanted, not what we are wanted. You know when he's like
Mm.
when he's sat at the desk and he's just like same all day in day out. But he has this thing inside him which is genetically given to him, but he doesn't know his family's past, doesn't know his dad was a hitman, and like he can be able to he can kind of call on this. It's within him, right? And it takes somebody to come along and show him that it's there.
Yeah.
This is what we do as personal trainers, is that
Yes.
somebody will come in this misaligned state, and it's quite visual. Like a mechanic would see a car and be like, your wheels aren't on straight, so you ain't going to go down the road and get to where you want to get to. So we got to come along and line you up and make sure that your suspension is supporting you and that you have your interior in a nice place. Otherwise you won't sleep well at night, and all these little things, we can kind of draw the analogies back and forth, but it all comes down to that, as who are you right now and how did you get to being here? And it's like you said, it's not good or bad, it just is. And realize that, is this going to serve us going forward, or do we need to develop more of ourselves in other ways, whether it be with being more honest with yourself and saying, oh, you know what, I'm getting the work done, maybe I'm not getting done at the time I need to get it done, so maybe it's a case of we need to work at being time organizing brown or whatever, you know what I mean? That's a part of whatever. But once we have the awareness of what we are, then we can go forward and start filling the gaps as to where we want to be. You know what I mean? And but we said earlier about how you set the goalposts and be like, okay, this is where I want to be. This is kind of where I am now. Cool, totally fine. This ain't bad, but this is on the way. So let's start to fill in the blanks and start to, like we said earlier as well, like beat the version of yourself that you were yesterday in pursuit of this end person, because ultimately that's the way you feel that your life requires you to, how your life requires you to orientate yourself now, is to slowly start moving in that direction, because otherwise you have what you were and what I've been in my life as well, which is like happy-go-lucky, like, oh, I'll be okay, I'm okay with it, I'm okay with it. Inside I'm definitely not okay with it, but I just can't express this, because if I do, I'm afraid of what will happen. Like, whether that be afraid of I could hurt something, or I could hurt a relationship, or I could actually hurt, or if I go there, I don't know how you're going to react to me. So could I be alone in that instance? I'm actually saving myself from that pain by constantly keeping myself in this kind of place. I'm not happy here, but I just haven't been given the tools to express myself in a way that allows me to be who I actually am, but do it in a way that isn't going to scare everybody away. And that I think is quite an important thing to be able to decipher in life. And I'm going to link this back to what you said earlier. You said something earlier, which was no fulfillment without challenge, right?
Yes.
And I made a note of that. And that, for me, I'm going to link this to closing of gyms, right? This is why that multidimensional thing is, let's just understand how we have to fully look at this picture. You can't just say a gym is a place we go to lift weights up and down, because it just ain't. Like, a gym is actually a place where that fulfillment is ever present, because there's challenges all around us. And if we look at society right now, and we take the example of level-headed Brown, everybody goes to an office job, or goes to Sainsbury's, or goes to work as a car salesman, or whatever. But where in that do you get the chance to tell your boss that they're just incompetent, they don't know what the fuck they're doing? You don't.
Yeah.
You just don't, right? Because the construct requires us to be a certain way. It requires us to be submissive to an extent, have an opinion but don't have too much of an opinion, walk a certain way, dress a certain way, be a certain way. It's like, sorry, but you're asking that from the wrong species. Like, this is why it just doesn't gel, right? Because at a certain point, if you're okay doing that, and you can go there, cool. But I doubt that you can do that and actually orientate the rest of your life in a way that doesn't have it come out in the wash in a really weird way. Like, oh, now I have to go to a desk job, I go home and I smoke all night, or I drink all night to get to sleep at night. You know what I mean? That's the, when we see this, like, it's almost akin to like going into a range of motion and then the body developing bone spurs because you're going against the grain and it can't quite do it. So it's like having to adapt to kind of just support you in this new weird way. You know what I mean? Like, that's the link I'm trying to make there. And what we have with the gym, like to kind of link it back to there, is if you take the opportunity away from somebody to express themselves, that's the social dilemma that people have with mental health right now, is that there's no field of play. Like you can't have this sport of self-expression just go away and expect everybody to just carry on with this monotony. Oh, stay at home and just be okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, no,
Yeah.
we don't do this. We've figured out society in a way that we have certain places we can go to, whether it be a bar, whether it be a gym, whether it be something that appeases all the different bits of us, and then we can actually orientate within the other aspects of ourselves. If some of those go away, now it's a case of, well, what the fuck do we do now? Like we had these support systems in place, we don't have them anymore. Like that's a problem, and that's when you look at a gym, that's why it's important to just not look at it in one dimension and be like, oh, it's just a uppy downy, pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is this
Exactly.
human being's chance to level up and do it in ways that allow him to or her to effortlessly move forward through the rest of their life. Not effortlessly, but in awareness, move forward with the other things in their life as well. So let's call it what it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's people are missing, man. It's it is. Yeah. It's a place. What did I call it? I had a name for it a little while back,
Mm.
but it's essentially it's a like a I don't know. Yeah. It's just where you have the space to just do better.
Yeah.
Basically, it's yeah. You said it best, man. Yeah. There's no point in me trying to add anything else to it. I think, but yeah,
Oh,
you
you
said it best. It's
space.
just yeah. It's just a place where you go, and it's not just about the lifting of the weights. It's about
Mm.
who you're going to become. It's that quote that we said earlier, which is it's not about the outcome that you achieve. It's about the person you become while achieving that
Mm.
outcome. And that's what's so important about just being in touch with your body and actually using your body as a way to challenge yourself,
Mm.
because it's so tangible, the results that you gain by using your body. And a little bit of effort and you see it. You can see the benefit of it, and you can feel the benefit of it.
Mm.
And and so, because it's so tangible, because you can see it, you can feel it, you can experience it, and then you can get other people talking to you about how the how that tangible effect is actually noticeable as well. Like you're talking about Sam and Amy, just people saying like you're not the same person, you look great, what's your secret, that kind of thing. So it's a great microcosm for uh, learning how to apply yourself, and actually seeing the just rewards for it. And and you also do get hit with setbacks as well. So in obvious ways, like you might pick up a niggle because you start pushing yourself, and you have to ease off for a couple of weeks, and it might frustrate you, and you worry about losing all your gains. But it's like, you know what? There's ways to adapt to that, and what you're
Mm.
doing is you're learning more about yourself. It's like you got a niggle, good. We're gonna fix that, and then you're going to come back stronger. You get
Yeah. Yeah.
another one, we're going to fix that, you're going to come back stronger. Approach it the correct way,
Mm.
it's all going to come back stronger.
So
and
good.
um, and so it's and then you can take what you learn there and apply it to other things in life. It's just so much easier to do that in that gym setting and learn that about yourself because of how obvious the result is. And it's
Yes.
the same. It's the same with like especially with grappling sports. That's why sports are such a good um, kind of like learning ground, like such a basic and obvious and microcosmic learning ground for life lessons, because you're going to have your mistakes made obvious to you there. And then in jiu-jitsu, it's like, okay, I just got caught in a choke or an armbar or something,
Mm.
and I made a mistake, and that's it. And you have to move on very, very quickly from that. You can't just live in that. Tennis is the most obvious, one of the most obvious ones is what you hit a shot, and if it stays in the tram lines, great. If it goes out of the tram lines, you're done. It hits the
Mm.
net, you're done. Point over, game over. And it's just about how you're going to deal with that. What's the next step you're going to take, so that you don't live in that moment of that mistake. And it's all of that stuff. Doing anything physical is probably the best way to learn how to live a good quality life, I think.
100%, man. 100%. Yeah, yeah. I think the example you gave there about like clearly defined parameters for failure is what I see with weight training, and I see with like jiu-jitsu and sport and that stuff for me is a very advanced form of the same thing, like clearly defined parameters failure, yes. But when we take it to the human being and we say, okay, right, well, this human being, some humans are sports athletes, some people are, they have to, their life success and failure is dictated on the field, or the state or the play, wherever they play. But for Sam, for Amy, for Raminder, for our clients, and just generally human beings, our mums, our dads, the sport is life, right? Like Shallow says it all the time, like you become the shape of your sport. And that sport, it can be taught such a simple way, just by looking at the human body, understanding, having a basic understanding of anatomy and physiology and how muscles lengthen and contract and how that interfaces with the next thing. And the most amazing thing about this is that you can just quiet the world. And like for me, probably the most, I'm sure you'll have your own examples of this as well, is that like a gym floor. This is one of my biggest gripes with UP when I first got to Mayfair. I remember going to the office and be like, turn the music down. Like,
Right. It's
this
too
is
loud.
bullshit. Yeah, yeah, it's bullshit, because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to give an experience. It's like, great. What does that mean? Like, what does that actually mean? Like, who's going to leave here and be like, I had a great session at the gym. They played loads of great tunes. It's like, can we please just cut the bullshit? Like, I understand that if someone's doing a crazy 1 rep max or whatever, yeah, you might need some tunes and you might need someone to slap you on the back or whatever to wake you up a little bit. But the sport that these people are playing is, and the thing that they're all, not these people, I'm going to be like, so whatever, but like the sport that the clients that we're dealing with are playing is won and lost on the field of awareness, not on the field of like, let's just rage monster our way through this. Like, can we turn the music down so we can actually have a conversation with this person and bring their awareness to certain points of their body that they need to just be made aware of? Like, this is of higher importance. Like, we can bring their awareness forward and actually help them have the experience of their lifetime by just showing, oh, did you know your body could do this? Like, I don't care what Limp Bizkit's rapping about. Like, that's not important right now. Like, cool, thanks, man. And we'll keep rolling sound. But like, if you don't know how to orientate your
That's in my
pelvis,
training playlist though.
yeah, definitely is. But what was it called? My Way as well.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
track.
that's a proper
Old
track,
school,
right?
man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Libeskind. Not hating anymore. I'm just trying to make a point here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, let's give the experience in a way. So I've kind of gone off a tangent, but it's
No,
all
go for it.
about just weight training. The reason why it wins is because you can quiet the noise of a stadium, you can quiet the noise of people, you can quiet the noise of music. You can just have one awareness being transferred into another awareness and be like, this is something that you need to understand for being a human being. And off, like, if you're a human being, put your hand in the air. Cool, yeah, okay. Do you know this? No. Okay, Sam, let me explain it to you, and you'll live better. Full stop. Like, that's
Yeah,
that's as simple as it needs to be, right? And
yeah,
that's why, once you have that foundation, I can't remember. I think you said it a couple of weeks ago. It's like you can then diversify and play off of that. And you can go and take that foundation and go and run with it, or go and jump with it, or go and shoot a basketball with it, or go and throw a barbell over your head with it. But let's have some awareness around how the body is supposed to move first, and then we can go anywhere with it. You know what I mean? That's
yeah,
the not to say that our way is the only way, but it's a pretty decent way. Like, no pain,
yeah,
strong, feeling secure, walking tall without wobbliness or whatever. And then you can go and Ido Portale, or you can go and I don't know, Ed Cohen it, or you can go and Michael Jordan if you want. Like that.
yeah,
That's yeah. Or you can go and Grace still go it and just
yeah.
freaking tear up the platform, right? Like that's the end product. But firstly, let's just get a handle on where we are right now, where we need to be.
That's it, man. I
Yeah,
think
man,
yeah, human being first, because even athletes, like there's always a need to train them for the sport that they're participating in,
yeah,
and so But that doesn't mean you forego the human being. You know, you have to first address the human being. So, because you could look at it and be like, all right, you know what, this NFL came to the top of my head. I don't know why it just did. But like, this guy in the combine, he's supposed to have a 4.4, 4.3 40-yard dash, 4.3 second 40-yard dash. And we're timing him during the season, you know, he's getting 4.6. You know, this is unacceptable loss. All right, we need to up his strength and conditioning. You know, we need to get him jumping more. We need to get him doing plyometrics more, whatever it might be. And you could be doing all that, but without asking the fundamental question of like, what's actually happening outside of the sport, you know, to the human being. It's like, you know what, I'm struggling to sleep. Oh fuck! If we sort that out, you know, sort out the human being first, and then he'll probably come back to a 4.3 40-yard dash. You know, as that's what needs to happen.
That's a great point.
Just across the board. It's you are a human being first and foremost. So let's deal with that.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like you brought it back down to a different level there. Like we were talking about weight training and like kind of hurrahing the mechanics of the human. But then you take it to a different dimension. You're like, oh shit, well, you exist on this plane too. Like, are you being appeased with having enjoyment in your life, with having all these other things? It's such a good point, man. Because like you said, it's the human being. just yeah. I don't need to say it any other way. That's
Well, this is why I love what you did with Eamon, right? Is like your youngster who's training as a boxer.
Yeah.
Right, and you noticed something about him, which was he's on his heels a little bit too much. And then instead of it being about, all right, we need to do your physical training where you're starting to be more proactive, you realize that actually he's not paying attention as much as he should be. So you told him to start paying attention, and that had the effect that it needed to have.
Yeah.
I love that story. I love that because that's just, you know, it's dealing with the human being rather than just dealing with the parameters that we're trying to fulfill in that quantifiable way. It's like, well, here's a different way of looking at it, and that's totally necessary.
Yeah, too right, man. Too right. It's almost like I had a consult with a client before I came on today, and it's a case of just like, show me your cards. Like, I need to see all your cards, the ones that are going to affect this game, the ones that you're going to play with, the ones that you'll try and not beat me with, but the ones that the ones that I have to try and beat. You know what I mean? Like, think of it like I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh all the time when I was little, right? A proper nerd for Yu-Gi-Oh. Anybody out there listening, tell me if you know what Yu-Gi-Oh is, or you played in your life, like legit. My cousin, me and my cousin Habib have like pitched battles right now. Just like, I'm gonna bust your ass. I'm gonna play by this guy and this card or whatever. It's just super nerdy, but it's so much fun.
I don't know what it is.
It's just I'm looking at two decks that I just sat on my windowsill just there, and it's just a crazy card game, Japanese card game or whatever. And I was picturing it like, if you come in and you have walls built up around the fact that we can't split squat you. It's okay. Well, that's probably quite a fundamental thing we need to get to at some point. Like, knee flexion is needed. So let's slowly see about how we can traverse this, right? Like, whatever cards you have, you're a vegetarian, cool. Well, we need to work around how this human still needs to get protein into their system. So we need to figure out how we're going to do that given this card that we've been presented with. And I think that's what makes our job so much fun. Like, we always come back to this. We love what we do because it's like problem solving, right? It's problem solving, like dynamic problem solving. The problems, like the puzzles, like changing and trying to morph and whatever. We're just trying to like plug in bits and take bits away, and seeing how the puzzle will then unfold. And I mean, it's quite rare that you see a client not go the right way. You know what I mean? Especially somebody that sticks with it long enough. And the onus is on us to make sure that we're in a place, an informed enough place to take your awareness to certain places and then just not leave you there and be like, oh, I don't have your answers now, sorry. But actually be like, okay, well, I think this is what's going on here. What do you think? Having those conversations with clients just moves them from a place where they first come in and you see that lack of awareness around certain things or their lack of support in their life around certain things, to a place where they're just like, oh, yeah, this is so simple now. I get this. And then you see someone flourish.
Yeah, that's it. It's just plug in that little bit of information. It's like, here's the framework. You as a human being go into that framework and we'll put in the things that are going to affect you the most. Is because ultimately the framework is I'm going to argue that it's the same for every human being.
Yes,
Just
yes.
essentially
I love that you said that.
is yeah. It's like what made you resonate with that?
Just it is, isn't it? It's like
Yeah,
people want to be so different. People want to be so like, oh, but this has happened to me, and I get it. But like you said earlier, we've all got shit. Like
yeah,
to quote like Rocket Raccoon. It's like we've all got dead people. Like everyone's like, yeah,
yeah,
but at a certain point, yeah, you might have a different experience in life or whatever, but your bones are similar to my bones. Like them on a table, mine might be a bit longer, a bit shorter, a bit rounder, a bit fatter, whatever. But largely they fit together similarly. So let's
yeah,
not kind of get lost in the minutia, right?
yeah. That's it. Is um, the framework is the same for everyone. Like sleep, nutrition, movement, stress management. Plug in a few different things here and there, but that's the grand scheme of things. And then, but where somebody needs to plug more of something in is where the art of it is.
Yeah, too
Is
right.
is like somebody might actually be really good at getting good sleep. It's like, okay, cool. We don't have to worry about that bit. Let's instead worry about making sure your nutrition's on point and that you're able to move well. Then, you know, even just like the difference between you and I, for example, from a physical point of view, is like I'm more mobile, you're stronger than me. So even we plug the framework onto either of us, is like, okay, well, G's going to need more strength work, and Umar's probably going to need a little bit more mobility work. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's where the science of it comes in,
Yep.
and sorry, the art of it comes in as well. So even for people who we're perceived to be um, like better than the average, let's put it that way, at least in terms of how we are able to use our bodies,
Mm.
but we still use the same framework, but
Yep.
we just adapt it according to our weakness and the strength that we're trying to develop.
Too right, man.
And
Too right.
so that's what everybody kind of needs to think about. And I think actually it's made me think of like calories in, calories out.
Mm.
Just the simple. I don't know how it's happened, but there are people who believe that that doesn't work.
Mm.
And but the thing is whatever strategy for weight loss that you look at, whether it's whatever type of diet it is, the reason it worked is because you had a to help you lose weight is because you had a calorie deficit. And so there'll be people who come sideways at it and be like, my metabolism ain't great, and so that's why I
Mm.
can't lose weight. It's like, no, you can't lose weight because you're not in a calorie deficit. It's like it might contribute to that,
Mm.
but I think the worst case scenario is that if you've got a hypothyroidism, i.e., your thyroid doesn't work very well, so that your metabolism is low. The worst case scenario is that it reduces your metabolic rate by 25%. That's a lot,
Mm. Mm.
but that's the absolute. It's like generally the absolute worst case scenario. So it's not impossible for you to cut your calories by 25%.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to be able to lose weight, or just a little bit more, and but it's usually maybe 5, maybe 10%. And for most people, if you're ever complaining about having a slow metabolism, um, actually, even if that is the case, that's not it's not an excuse. So again, it comes back to the framework. Is like the
Mm-hmm.
framework will work for you. You just have to approach it a bit differently. Or rather, the art of it is to make it slightly different for you, and so that you're plugged in. Is like, okay, I still need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight if that's my goal, but you're just going to have to do it in a slightly more stringent way, maybe,
Yeah.
or maybe
Yeah.
you have a little bit more flexibility, whatever it might be. So again, there is so with a framework, there
Mm.
kind of is no excuse for you to not achieve the results you're after,
Mm.
and there'll be some people who'll just be harder for than others, because some of the things I'm thinking of is like, if you do have a little bit of like a hormonal issue, or like we just described there with, say, hypothyroidism, you might just you'll have to recalibrate your expectations for weight loss if
Mm-hmm.
that's a goal, but that doesn't mean that you can't get stronger. you can't actually start to fit into your clothes better, that you can't put on muscle mass, that you can't feel better about yourself, you can't improve the quality of your movement, you can't improve your coordination, you can't stop feeling clumsy, you can't not get stronger. Like none of that stuff is off the table just because that is that one thing might be something that makes achieving your goal harder for you. You got a lot you got a lot to play for when you follow the framework.
Too right, man. Too right. Yeah, that's. I feel like while you were talking, I was picturing like a Venn diagram of people, like
Yeah,
picture like, but the Venn diagram of all Venn diagrams, like just
ultimate.
fucking circles everywhere, right? And like bisecting circles everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's on that kind of a framework. If you fall into a, say you're just here, but here represents somebody who is maybe living in the past a little bit too much, and then they don't have much self-awareness, and then
Mm,
they are a bit kind of skeptical towards the goal, or all of these, or like self-belief isn't kind of quite there. It makes it very, very difficult to impose a suggestion like the one you've just made, which is a scientific fact, if all these other states of play aren't in alignment with that fact being like properly expressed through the person, if that makes sense.
mm-hmm,
Like this is a nutritional fact that the body requires this amount, but because of the way that you're kind of pent up about eating a little bit less, it's causing you to just have your cortisol levels to kind of rise, and all of a sudden you're sleeping like shit. And then
mm,
it's like, oh, the calorie deficit's not working. It's like, well, actually, it is working, but the way in which you're receiving it is just so backward that
mm,
you're almost undoing the effects of something that is actually working on this end. But you yourself, the way you're meeting the problem is there's other things that need to be addressed, and this is where I love our job, because it's a lot about intuition, isn't it? It's like, okay, this is the facts, but for me to make this square peg fit in your square peg, there's all this shit in the way. Like we need to
yeah,
move this out of the way and move that out of the way and move your like unwillingness to follow the process, and your time management, and your ability to get a good night's sleep, and your ability to listen when someone's talking, or even focus while there's a big busy gym over here. That
mm,
stuff is clouding this easy process sliding on through. And when we start getting this stuff out of the way is when you're going to see, oh wow, it's so easy. Like, yeah, it was easy all
mm,
along, but you had shit in the way. It's like
yeah,
that's fine though. That we take on that that process because we love what we do. We love actually helping people move from a place where they just found themselves being unaffectable by
mm,
effective things.
mm,
And the process of defogging a person is just so much fun, because you start seeing things.
mm,
Oh yeah, see how you couldn't put your arm over your head before. Well, there was a load
yeah,
of things that were kind of contributing to that fact. Now, yeah, we've looked at your lats, and we've looked at your your triceps or your internal rotators, and now we've also looked at your ventilation and how you're breathing, and how your rib cage is kind of orientated on your pelvis. And so, oh shit, this thing can go there now. Like we had to get this stuff out of
mm,
the way first
mm,
for you to be able to access this. Ooh, it's easy now. Like, yeah, of course it's easy now. Like
yeah,
we had all this stuff to unpack
yeah,
out of the boot first, and then that, I think, having a clear, honest conversation with somebody. And I think this Shadows gets into this where he talks about like goal setting and like
mm,
strengths, weakness, opportunities and threats with like SWOT analysis. I think that's such a
yeah,
fun tool to just break out.
mm,
And that's almost one of my favorite sessions, is just to sit down with
right,
somebody and be like, where are you at? Like, which like swampy depths do we have to go drudge through? Yes, there's some things that I'm not qualified to go to you with, but some of those things, maybe I can give you some of these tools. You can go fight those battles yourself. Whether it be go and get in touch with this person because they're a psychologist, or let me just build some self belief in you, and you can go and fight those own demons your own way. You know what I mean? Because that's what we ultimately need to do for you to get from where you
mm,
are to where you would like to be. And I believe you can
mm,
get there, but you've got to believe you can get there. Oh, can you believe it? Oh, I can believe it. Okay, Sam, we're on the way now.
yes,
That's yeah, man, fun times.
bro. It sounds like you just read my mind, man, because that was one of the things I was thinking of. I was chatting with like an NKT colleague of mine, neurokinetic therapy, a guy I met through the courses, super sound guy, and he's a sports therapist, like
Mm.
hands on, but like really skilled with like NKT and helping people get some long lasting results. Like we were talking about a recent case as well, where he just had a woman who had a knee problem for like a couple of years, didn't believe that the process could work for her, and so it didn't. Basically, she got in touch with him again at some point in the future, having worked on this belief system and was more open minded to everything working.
Wow.
And he goes, "We didn't really do anything different, but she
Mm.
got the result
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that she wasn't getting anywhere else all over
I
again."
love it. I love it.
And yeah, it's amazing because you have to. And what you were talking about there, it didn't just make me think of that, but it just made me think of that in general. The process is only as effective as the amount of belief and effort that the person puts into it. And yeah,
Go on, go on, go on, go on. I'll go after.
yeah, and
Sorry.
and so if you're not going to trust the process, and if you're going to keep doubting it, and if you're going to keep like questioning us but in a negative way, it's like we love questions because it makes us better at what we do, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to be like, man, no, this is bullshit, basically every time,
Mm.
and that's like
Mm.
your underlying belief about the whole thing, is like, well, good luck getting any kind of result that you're after. So it might be that we're not the right people for you.
Mm-hmm.
It might be that you don't resonate with us in that kind of way. But whatever it is, whoever you work with, you're going to have to believe in the process that it's the right thing for you to do,
Mm.
and then good shit will start to happen.
Yeah, man. It's. I went first thing, but then I went to the second thing, and the second thing was better. Second thing was Space Jam, right? Fucking Space Jam.
Yes.
Halftime, it's like the special fast,
Phil
like,
Star.
like fucking yeah. He's like the
The
water,
special stuff.
the
Yeah.
special water. They're all just necking it, like, oh, we're so jacked now. It's cool, of course.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
we could do it. We could do it. It's belief, right? It's just fucking
Yeah.
water, right? It's just
That's
water.
it.
Like it's the sugar pill, right? It's the sugar pill. It's
Yeah.
placebo. I was listening to Joe Dispenza this week on Instagram, and he had a quick clip on what's his name, Marcus Aubrey, the On It guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Mm-hmm.
had a quick clip on his
Aubrey Marcus. Yeah.
Aubrey Marcus. There you go. Yeah, he's a cool guy as well. He had a clip on his page talking about this placebo effect, that it's nothing, like it don't exist. You made it real, and then it worked. It's like you were hardwired the belief system that this pill got you to believe yourself. You know that pill was sugar,
Yeah.
and they're like, "What the fuck? What do you mean?" It's maybe made you feel like you hardwired the neurology around it, that like you talk about all the time, right? Neuroplasticity, and then how it's literally you're in control of this. Like you're at the wheel. Like Shallows talks about it in terms of like breathing and parasympathetic and sympathetic responses to the body kind of going one way or the other. You have fucking control. Like that is
Yes.
that's the most fun thing. We were talking about it all the way through this, like realizing that level-headed Brown ain't gonna get the job done. Cool, I've got control of changing that. Like I can start seeing where he starts poking his head up and be like, oh, everything okay? No, nothing's
Yeah.
okay. Shut up.
Yeah.
Like this is not, it's not cool for you to be this way right now. But it's simple as that. Hey, it's as simple as, like we've talked about in the podcast loads of times, just recognizing that it's just in your hands. It's just in your hands.
Yes.
And obviously along the way, you working with somebody who's been there and done that, like we're clearly displaying that we have in our own ways, whether it be with a barbell or whether it be with mobility, whether it be breathing mechanics or food, or the psychological side of things, as looking at your own psyche. This is why you work with somebody, is because they clearly display things, and they show, like the quote, Alex Muscle Mentors, Alex, my bro, he said the quote that I don't know if he said it, but he showed us it, that you can't ask directions from somebody who hasn't been where where you want to go. You can't ask directions from somebody who hasn't been where you want to go. But if we're displaying the fact that, I used to be a certain way, it didn't serve me, so I decided to adapt my life in a certain way to help me get to where I now want to be, and now I'm happier for it. That's such a valuable a valuable insight to have. And then on the back of that, it's you realize, oh shit, it's just self-belief all along. And then it's a case of
Yes.
unpacking the fact that why don't you believe in yourself? Okay, well, this is just one instance in your life where you may have come up without the goods, but it just means you have to go back and get the goods. Like we just break it down and we just get it done. That's it. Like
That's it.
that's oh okay, it's just that simple. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man. Always in your control. It's reminding me of another thing to say about that as well, where how your stress response is in your control. For example, yeah, like I was talking about my buddy who's having a shit week, and the meditation and stuff and breathing techniques that you can use to help yourself level things back out again and give yourself some buffer against the stress that you're feeling. Um, Talking about or being in control is like, you're remember that line of whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right.
Yes.
Is It's
Yes.
like I
I
just
love
love
that.
that. It's just so
Yeah.
simple, right? And it's just like the nicely succinct, the most succinct way it's been put. And yeah, so like, how you frame a situation makes you either succeed or fail. And me talking about procrastinating is like, how I decided to frame it actually helped me do better. And but from a physical standpoint, like you want to know how much control you actually have. Is you can literally influence your state of being, not just physically but mentally, by controlling your breathing, because your diaphragm muscle, this sits underneath the rib cage, has direct access to your brain, basically through the nervous system supply that it has, the connection that it has to the brainstem. So when you start to, I mean, you could experiment with this right now. I wouldn't recommend anybody who's like got anxiety or has asthma or something to try this. But if you
Do
start to
it.
breathe, like,
Do it.
yeah, if you start to breathe really fast right now, if you just, you're gonna start to feel a little bit more anxious, a little bit more amped up. Because it's your body's like, okay, there's something in the environment I need to be aware of. I need to get ready to move. Like, what's going on? Conversely, you start doing it the other way. You start taking long, slow breaths out. Your nervous system just starts to calm down. You enter a more clear-headed space. The fog lifts. Your cognition goes up. You start to feel a bit calmer about things. So right there and then, you're in direct control of your state of mind and your state of physical being. So you always have access. You always have control. You just need to learn what that is. And if you
Too
need to
right, man.
learn it, then come and speak to us. We'll help you out with that.
100%, man. 100%. And I think that's such a, again, like back to the weight training argument, like the weight training, just trying to gym setting argument. You stick somebody on a cardio machine and say, okay, right, well, I want you to go at 130 beats a minute and I want you to control yourself the entire time. It's like you're taking your physical being to a place where it's having to exert, having to kind of push itself. But then you're telling your actual self that in that realm of exertion, stay calm. It's all good. There's
Yeah.
nothing bad going to happen. Like we're just gonna drive the car a bit faster now. You okay? Yeah, cool. We're good. Yeah, good. Carry on. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. And that's by doing that. I was explaining this to Amy this morning. That by doing that, you set a new baseline, like you talk about all the time. Like that baseline of stress and where you actually lose your shit is now up here. Like it was down
Yeah.
here. Like we know what it's like. You go to jiu-jitsu, first time someone chokes you, you're just like leave me. Like there's nothing wrong with you, right? Unless like, and then you get to a place where Sylvia is literally cranking on your neck, and you're like, probably should tap here. And you're just like, okay, fine,
Yeah.
I'll tap. I can't get out of it. Like
Yeah.
that's why I'm tapping, not because it's whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just by that graded exposure, like you talk about, graded exposure toward the stimulus, it's going to get your ability to control the outcome is always in your hands, like we've just been trying to articulate. But I find that so much fun because it's like I was talking about this to Kieran this week, and saying to him that like you've got a big deadlift bar in your hands, and you've got to get to a place where those reps ask you to turn into like the raging monster that's going to be able to lift this weight. But if you do that too soon, you flip that switch too soon, you can't put that Jekyll back in the box. Like, so yeah, Dr. Mr. Hyde back in the box. You've got to be Dr. Jekyll and be kind of like precise with it. And then when it's time to flip the switch, like do it now. Like, do it now. Get it all out, everything out, because that's going to get you to go further. But playing those two off each other is how you learn to realize, oh, okay, this is my ranges. I can exist in this place as well. I was scared of doing it earlier, but doing it in a controlled setting, like with a barbell in your hand, where you can just drop it. Like, cool, I don't want to play no more. I want to stop the treadmill. I want to stop the cross trainer, whatever it is. It's giving you a release from, we talked about like the monotony of office life, where it's just monotone, like just basic. Like, we need to. There was a guy on Joe Rogan one time. I don't know. I really struggled to remember who he was or what episode it was. I can't ever find the clip again, but I'll never forget the clip. He was just talking about how living your life at, like, say, as a spectrum between 0 and 10, 10 being the happiest happy or the most fulfilled you could ever be, and 0 being the most misery you could ever feel. You need to experience the polarity of life in this instance, because living in the middle means you're never ever kind of motivated enough to change, and you're never ever happy enough to fully, or you're never ever pushing yourself to the place where you can actually get to the 10s and the 9s, where it's just magic. And only by trying to stretch your boundaries and keep awareness in either end of the pole can you start to expand the error graph, right, and actually start to push into places you've never been before. But we do that in a controlled setting in the gym, and then take it into life, and it just gives you so much more control. You're just walking out there like, I have fucking got this. Like, come at me, right? I don't give a shit. I've just handled myself for the last hour. Like, I've handled my emotions. I've put my shit aside, and now you're gonna come at me with more stuff. It's like, I know what to do now. I've done it. I just did it. I'll be doing it tomorrow again. That's the fun side of this, man.
Yeah, that learning that ability to flip that switch makes you a more effective human being as well. You're again, we talk about access, man. Is access to that side of yourself where you can do that. Here's a fun one as well. Like anybody who follows tennis, Rafael Nadal, he's a really really good example of this, where he's just like the nicest dude off the court. Like, apparently his girlfriend says stuff like, he's afraid of mice or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember what it is, but I can't remember. I'm just making that up. But he's like something that you wouldn't expect somebody to have like an anxiety for, like someone like him. Like, oh, but he does, right? But he goes through this. So he has a process that he goes through before matches, about 45 minutes before he's supposed to be on court. It's not just the warm up that he's doing where, you're just warming up your body, but he's getting himself into the right frame of mind for the match. And he becomes an absolute animal on the court. Like, like, if you were to, if your life was on the line based on one point being played in tennis, he would probably be the guy you'd want to play that point for you to win that point so that he saves your life, right? Because the tenacity and the will is unrivaled from Rafa. But he's like the nicest dude who ramps himself up through this process to become an absolute animal on the court, where he's just never going to give up, and it doesn't matter what the fuck you throw at him. He's gonna take it, and he's gonna give it back to you. So like, even at that elite level, that's what people are doing as well. Is like to take themselves to the next level, they have to access a part of them which is in them in a particular domain for a particular outcome. And then afterwards they go through the process of bringing themselves back down from that as well, because it's very rare that you're just that way.
Can't live there.
You can't live there. You build yourself up into it, and then you bring yourself back down from it. And every human being has access to that. It's just about how well we're able to access that, and the better we're able to access that is like, well, I think for me, the more I go on that journey kind of myself, is like the more I feel like I become an effective human being, and the more I feel like I can fulfill the potential that I have. And I feel like that's available to everyone. It's just about going down that route and practicing that. And again, another example, yesterday I went for sprints. 10 rounds of 90 seconds sprint at 80% effort. Yeah.
Okay, that's tough.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
That's hard.
90 seconds and then 90 seconds off, like just
Right.
walking. But it was a 90-second sprint at like 80% effort as well. So I had to kind of gauge that because that was the first time I was doing it to that level. And I was like, you start and you're like, oh, this feels like 80% effort. And then I'm halfway through and I'm like, what fucking time is it, man? Why hasn't the 90-second buzzer gone off yet? And I'm like, okay, maybe that wasn't 80%. Maybe that was a bit harder than 80%.
Yeah, gauging that's hard.
But yeah, exactly. So I started to figure it out. But 10 rounds, right? That's half an hour. So it's basically 3 minutes total. 90 seconds on, 90 seconds off. 10 rounds of that. It's half an hour. And and I haven't been there. Like I said, this is the first time I'm doing it, so I haven't been there. So first I'm gauging it. So important thing I was doing was I'm not putting any pressure on myself to perform. Like I'm not putting any pressure on myself to be like I'm just got to fucking go full ham and just like rinse this and like my 80% should be everybody else's 150%. It's like nah, that's not gonna work. It's like I can't just act like I'm a beast straight off the bat. I have to work to become a beast. So that was the first step. So I'm not expecting anything from this one. The first one, it was, oh, you know what? Actually, that was a little bit more than 80%. It starts off feeling like it's about 80%, but then it ends up feeling like it's 90 to 95%. I'm like, okay, no, I need to ease off on that. Then, so I do a few more, and I'm like, okay, I've kind of figured that out. Gets to the 5th round, I'm like, fuck, I've got 5 more of these to do.
That's a lot. I don't know where you thought this workout from, but 90 on, 90 off at 80%.
Yeah.
Bro,
It came. So I don't know if you got the email. Like Whoop were doing a 5K, 5K 8-week workout plan.
Right.
So they were conducting a study, and along with Strava, to basically figure out, okay, we're going to give a certain subset of people this plan A. We're going to give a certain subset of people plan B and C and D, and then it's an 8-week training plan, and then at the end of it, everybody's going to do their 5K at PB and see what happens. I was just curious about what the workout plan includes. I just wanted to have access to it and then start to implement it my own way as time went on, and just basically I had to develop into that framework for their running workout as well, because I've never been a runner and I've taken it up like mostly seriously this year. So whatever they came up with, they were saying like run like 4 times a week. I was like, well, I don't have the capacity for that yet at the level of intensity that it might require, and I want to do some like kettlebell and strength training and stuff as well. So I don't want to I don't want to redline myself basically. But I feel like now, even though that study is over now, I feel like I'm getting to that level where I can start to do the workouts that were required. Especially, we talked a few weeks ago about like my foot, the hip and ankle relationship, and how my foot has been a bit of an issue. So I need to obviously manage that as well and build that up. So anyway, long story becoming even longer. It was so I started to use their workout plans. So one of the, like they have several, is like do a fartlek, or do a 30-minute run at 50%, do a 50-minute run at 50% effort, do a fartlek at like between 60 to 90% effort, do a sprint at 80% effort, do a sprint at 70, etc., etc. So I looked at this one. Initially, my intention was to go to the park and do hill sprints, but it was so slippery. I did it twice, and I was like, I'm just gonna fucking break my ankle here. I'm gonna hobble off home. I'm not gonna do this because it like chucked it down with rain the night before. So instead, I was like, okay, I'm gonna find the flat, and I'm just gonna do this one instead. I had to adapt my workout as well. So that's another key point, is like, okay, just because you can't do the workout you intended doesn't mean you don't work out. You go and adapt the plan. So I was like, okay, cool. Here's a straight. I'm going to do 90 seconds. I don't know how much of it I'll need, but let's just do it. So did what I was describing, and then got halfway through, and I was like, oh shit, this is getting hard. But then the moment I started to like say to myself, do all like the opportunity to grow into it, basically the opportunity to take the pain and lean into it and find mentally another gear. That was the real reward, because the pain was consistent, right? Is like the getting, like doing a 90-second sprint, my brain would always say, okay man, how long we got left? Come on, this is too much now. Like and if I looked at my clock while I was doing it, I'd be like, fuck, this is taking a lot out of me. So I'd set myself a couple of rules, like, okay, don't look at the clock while you're running, because that's just going to throw me back. And then I kept saying, train my focus, train my mind, train my focus, train my mind. And that made things easier as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it actually
yeah.
helped me. And it's like, okay, just lean into this, because this is another thing as well. Is like, it's very easy when things get hard or harder or more painful to just back away from it. It's like, no, actually lean in, lean
Mm-hmm.
into it. Just know that, I said it to you before as well. It's like the pain stays the same. It just gets
Mm.
longer. It doesn't
Yeah,
actually
man.
get any worse. It just gets longer, and that's what makes it feel worse. So I was like, it's just getting longer. It's just getting longer. That's all it is. It's like, it feels horrible, but it's just getting longer. Lean into it, lean into it, lean into it. And then it allowed me to complete the workout and then be like, yeah, man, you know what? I overcame like the mental challenge of this. This felt really, really good. So that was another, that was like, that was another part of a part of it, just
Mm-hmm.
accessing that part of yourself, raising yourself to meet the challenge rather than fighting with the
Mm-hmm.
challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like, oh fuck, I got to get through this. Instead I was like, oh no, enjoy getting through this, lean into the challenge, lean into the
Mm-hmm.
challenge, embrace it. And when you're in that last 20 seconds of that sprint and it's, your hip flexors feel like they're on fire, it's fine. It's cool, man. Enjoy it, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just making you better. You're just leaning into the challenge. And then you finish the workout and, I'm done. But I'm like, yeah, yeah, that was good. It's just, I went to another place, and I'm
Yes.
looking forward to doing it again,
Yes.
because it's an opportunity to go to another place. It sounds insane. It's a
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
hard
yeah,
workout,
yeah.
right? It's disgusting, but it's a good feeling to challenge myself to that level,
Mm-hmm.
and just lean into it. And that's another
Sweet,
thing
man.
that I keep saying is just lean in, man.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. I love the. I'm on that journey there with you. I'm on that track, just like
Yeah,
pounding away,
yeah,
just kind of seeing it because that's
yeah.
that's the what's the word? It's the tipping point, right? That's the
Mm.
bit where like the hits the horizon just right, and oh, the gateway opens up, and you run through. Oh shit, I made it! It's like
Yeah,
right on that like platform 9 3/4. You got to believe, and you got to run through the gate, right?
yeah, man.
It's if you're not there with your own self awareness and your own belief, it won't happen. But
Mm.
only that's the chemical makeup that you need. That's the mixture of all of yourself, your physical being and your mental being and your spiritual being like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna die here. Like
Yeah,
just being weak, right?
that's
Like we
it.
have to get through this. Like we all of us get all of yourselves, guys, because we have to figure this out. And
Mm.
in that instance, there's one part of you that is just like sometimes lagging behind. It's like, oh, this
Yeah,
part of me or my physical being or whatever. And sometimes it isn't. Like today, I had to go to the gym and just call my workout and be like, look, it's just not there. Like not that I didn't work out. I didn't do the prescribed twos just because the body is just not there. The mind was one of
right.
those. If the body's not there and the mind's not there, then it's just like, okay, you can spirit the hell out of this right now. I know because it's
Yeah.
always there, but I'll be raging with 70% of my one rep of my actual working weight, and it will just
Mm.
beat more out of me. Whereas right now, I can go home, I can get a good meal in, I can come back in a few hours or something and actually try this again.
Mm.
And but to follow along, but I feel like that is earned. Like
Mm.
like you have to go there to know when you're actually off, and that
Yes.
will be at different
Yeah.
places for different people. Like
Mm-hmm.
because we all have our own levels that we have to get to, but first exhaust it first, like really take it to a place where you
Yeah.
can't there's nothing left in the tank. And if anyone's
Mm.
never done that and you're able-bodied to an extent and you've got no health conditions, do it. Like go
Yeah.
on a get on a machine or get on a airdyne bike, and for 10 seconds imagine the world will
Yeah.
end if you don't pedal that thing as hard as you can. You're saving everyone in the room and their
Exactly.
ancestral lines and everything else, right?
Yeah.
And just figure out where your baseline's at, because
Yeah.
once you know and once oh my god, that was horrible, like you just
Yeah.
got to do it, man. You just have to experience that because it's so that's like people talk about like drugs and this and that and whatever. I've never dabbled in any of that stuff, but I'm willing to bet the chemistry I can make in my brain through me just feeling like anything I want to feel as possible through my effort and then making
Mm.
the maximum effort I can. It ain't gonna come close. I don't care
Yeah.
what you give me. It ain't gonna come close to what I can make myself do. It's just not. I don't
Bam.
care. Like I just don't believe in it. I believe in me. I believe in me and like the faith and and the spiritual kind of backing, and me thinking about my forefathers or whatever, or like people that I come from, or like the help I've had along the way. All that stuff's so powerful, man. Like I think of like Goku with his spirit bomb, right? Like he's like,
Yeah.
everybody around the world, give me your energy. Like that shit is real, man. That shit is like
Yes.
you access it on certain points. Yes, there's no quantifiable way. Like we were talking about this in the week. Like how do you quantify certain things? And you can't. But some things aren't there to be quantified. They're just there to be experienced and there to be felt. And if you're in denial of those things, cool. You exist on one dimension, right? But I'm over here playing this game. Like this will come up against you one day, and you've got to have some kind of card to match it. Otherwise, this might not be enough. You know what I mean? But
Yep.
that's just our experiences.
It's power, man. I think
Yeah.
we'll leave it there today.
Let's go, man. Let's go. I'm
It's a
happy
good
with
place
that.
to leave it. Yeah,
That was
no,
that was
that's
that was
good.
a.
We got ourselves a round table to get to as well, right? With
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
so-called pre-script brothers. We're going to be talking strength, hypertrophy, mobility, stability. And it's going to be
All the
fun.
gains. All the gains.
All the gains, exactly. Ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. That was a fun conversation. We hope you enjoyed it too. Tell us what you think. Follow us on Evolve, Achieve, Thrive on Instagram, and get in touch with us. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you agree with. Tell us what you don't agree with. Tell us your perspective on the things that we've just been talking about, because that's always fun. Getting a different perspective, because there is generally trying to find a different perspective. Generally trying to find something that's challenging, and baking that into the pie as well, to see what comes out on the other side. So if you're enjoying the podcast as well, if you're listening, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. That'll be super helpful for us to get conversation out there. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and hit us a thumbs up and tell us a comment as well. Tell us what you think. We're super stoked that you're listening as well. Really appreciate it.
Definitely echo that message. If you believe in what we're talking about, and whether you feel like this conversation needs to reach more people, reaching out to hit that rating button on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, like G was talking about, definitely helps this grow, so that we can have a world where all the things that we talk about are actually possible, because people have heard it and it's changed their perspective. So where you can do your part is right there, and just get it out there to the people, and then they can do with it what they wish.
100%. Cool, brother. I will see you in another chat.
See you soon, people.